Fault Lines.
Welcome back to Fault Lines. My name is Jamarl Thomas. We are coming to you with a great guest, Niko House. Niko, what's going on? Political activist and broadcast journalist, founder and CEO of MCSC Network. Niko, how's it going, man?
What's going on, guys? Appreciate you having me on. It's going how it's going.
It's going how it's going. Now, where are you? You're in Florida, right?
Miami, yeah.
Oh, okay. What is it? What's going on down there from the standpoint of COVID? I'm just, every time we call in, we just check up because Florida was one of those states where it was hit pretty hard.
Opened. So yeah, Florida did open back up. Now people out here do still practice social distancing and wearing masks, but the businesses have gone back to normal. The general sense that I've gotten on the ground from people I've talked to, small business owners and things of that nature, that they're relieved that they can open back up at full capacity. However, it's not because they want to. It's just merely because the government hasn't provided any, financial stability for them in the short term to make sure their employees are taken care of. And so they're like, well, if you're going to not give us anything to hold us over, then at least let us for ourselves. And so in my opinion, it's kind of sad that we're in this position, because I remember during the debate that topic came up. He was like, oh, man, Trump wants to open everything. And it's like, yeah, but the Democrats had an opportunity to give us money and didn't do so. And so what other choice do we have? So basically their option was to starve us to death until we voted for Joe Biden, which I'm not also not a fan.
Well, to be fair, yes, I agree with you. I agree with you on that. But to be fair, that was Trump's policy too. I mean, Trump and Republicans wanted to get people back to work. And what they understood was if we give people a stipend every month or X amount of time, the incentive for those people to try to throw themselves back into their jobs where they could be riddled with COVID-19 goes down. And you're right, it's a grim choice. If you're a business owner, if you're a worker, and they've shut down your store and you're not getting money, your first thought is, okay, where's my cash? What am I going to do? And so if that store opens, even if there's a potential for COVID-19, you are forced and compelled by your own needs to get back to work. That's a horrible choice to make. It really is.
Yep, I agree.
Let me ask you this.
I agree. And at the end of the day, like me as I work for myself now, but when I used to be a server at a restaurant back in college, I would have to put myself in that danger because I have to pay my bills. So I completely understand the people who are just like, look, I got to get back to work. If y'all not going to take care of me, then I got to take care of myself.
Yeah, it's not choice at that point. I mean, you could say it's choice, but the other option is to basically die,
right, in one way or another.
Let me ask you this, or starve to death or something like that. The debate. Now, you, similar to me, are not a Democrat. You're kind of outside the political space. You float out above it all in a sense. I had my certain feelings about the debate. I thought Trump won it, even though I thought it was a hollow win, because I thought he accomplished what I think he wanted to, meaning get Joe Biden to repudiate his base while him backing his own base. And he got Joe Biden to basically punch the left over and over and over again in a debate while he stuck to his guns, even to the point of white supremacy. He wouldn't do it. That's how wed he was basically to his base, police, military, etc. What did you think about the debate? How did you see it? Did you think there was a win, if there was a win at all? Did you think it was just like, no, this was horrible, this wasn't even a debate? What was your thought?
The debate was crazy. First of all. But I actually agree with you. And I found it funny because like the people who were already voting for Joe Biden were like, oh, man, we felt like Joe Biden won. But no one that I knew that wasn't voting for Joe Biden felt like he won. They felt he got dragged through the dirt and that he kind of tried to come and fight on Trump's terms. And Trump really, to them, kind of took control of the debate. Like to the Trump supporters, they were pleased at the fact that he gave Chris Wallace the finger and told him to shut up and let him finish talking. Like they liked the fact that he could.
He was being an alpha male. He was being dominant. And so for Trump's in his head, when he says dominate the streets, well, his framing of this stuff is kind of the same way. Look at what he did to Ted Cruz. Look at what he did to Marco Rubio, calling him a little boy. And
everybody thought that was a negative, remember? Everybody thought that was a negative last time. And it helped him.
Yes, it did. Call him, you're a little boy. And Ted Cruz, the funniest thing about Ted Cruz recently was the Chris Cuomo clip. I don't know if you've seen this. Ted Cruz goes on to Chris Cuomo. They get into a fight on air. Chris Cuomo eventually says, hey, why don't you ask Trump? What are you doing, scared? He called your wife ugly. Now, this is the funniest thing on the world.
What?
Because if you remember what happened to Ted Cruz was bent to form. Do you remember this? Ted Cruz, they called his wife ugly.
Yeah, I remember it.
His dad helped kill Kennedy. Like they went after him. Ted Cruz, they said, are you going to back Trump? He called your wife ugly. Are you going to back Trump? Ted Cruz was like, I'm going to beat him. And then you see the video with Ted Cruz sitting at the phone bank under Trump and Pence, phone banking for Trump. Saddest thing in the world.
Oh, yeah. Hey, you know, it's funny when I thought about that. I was like, man, Ted Cruz is a good little Democrat. He would be a good little Democrat. Because, you know, Democrats, that's what Democrats, we've, grown accustomed to seeing them do. Not as much Republicans, but now, look, here we are. Trump has them in check like that. I think the part of the debate that kind of like made me jump out of my chair was whenever Joe Biden inevitably pulled the, oh, but do you know my son Bo? My son Bo isn't weak. My son Bo, da da da. And when he said, I don't know Bo, but I do know Hunter. Yeah. And I was like, oh my God. because that was a moment in the debate that I thought like, man, Trump can't really weasel his way out of this one. And he still did it.
Yeah. I mean,
he did it. He took
really didn't talk about
like the emotional reaction that Trump. Yeah, he did. He was like, no, I don't have to. He's like, why? Why would we could talk about Hunter? He's still alive. Like,
the Hunter thing was so...
And I think that Joe Biden's response to that was actually pretty sickening to me. When he was like, oh, my son just had a drug problem, like most people in this country do nowadays, or many people in this country do. And I thought to myself, that's crazy because when all the people that look like me had drug problems, you thought to put them in jail for 25 in life. But when your son has a drug problem, he gets a job in Burisma for $50,000 a month.
That's right. And Trump, by the way, he did try to bring it up like that. If you remember, like, he was using his son as a prop. He uses it all the time. My son, Bo. Yeah. And then he would use it in a way that's weird because he was trying to connect it to the war. As if he died in the war, but he didn't die in the war. And so it's like, if your son has a medical issue and it digs into you deeply, you would think the most natural thing in the world would be, I want to make sure everybody's covered. And that's not where he goes with this, despite using his kid as a prop. And Trump effectively dodged that. Yeah, I don't have anything to say about your son. I have something to say about Hunter. And interestingly enough, at one point he did bring up the criminal thing. When Trump, I think Joe Biden made some reference to, you hurting African Americans or something. And Trump made reference to, hey, you were locking up darkies.
He said, y'all called him super proud. He said, you called them super predators. He said, I'm the one who introduced the first step back. What have you done? And it's like, whenever people were like, well, what did he do? I'm like, bro, I have no answer to that. He introduced the crime bill and then wouldn't apologize for it. You know what I'm saying? Like, we got to remember all the things that these people are getting away with, that Trump and his administration are getting away with, the things that these police officers are getting away with. Joe Biden, I mean, do you want to talk about foreign policy with the Patriot Act and even domestic policy, or do you want to talk about the police state with the crime bill? That was all Biden stuff, and the only thing that Trump is taking advantage of is what Biden set up for him.
Exactly. I keep, when I make the point to people and say, you realize that the mean-spiritedness that was put into our criminal justice system when it prosecutes, when it goes after people, the 1,000, dead or killed that take place like every year, and I'm talking about on average, with 1% being prosecuted. Joe Biden was the person to put that in. And yet, and it aggravates me to no end, he would say, I was part of the civil rights movement, helping getting you guys unsegregated.
Oh my God.
Say it in a heartbeat. Look at one blackface after the next is it. He would also make this argument that, basically, I, Joe Biden, King of Blacks, have been helping you. And he would go and use Jacob Blake as a prop. He would use George Floyd as a prop, despite the fact that in many respects, he is more culpable than pretty much anybody else in our political system today for those crime bills.
Let me tell you something that bothered me to no end. I mean, to this day, I lost sleep over it. And I didn't realize how much it was going to affect me until the end of the debate. But that morning, a New York Times story broke saying the Attorney General, Daniel Cameron in Kentucky, lied, saying that the jury reached a consensus with the prosecution that those two police officers should not have been prosecuted for killing Breonna Taylor. He lied because a juror came out anonymously and got permission by the Attorney General's office And he said, we never had the option to prosecute Breonna Taylor.
Yeah.
Those cops. We never had the option. And he lied to the entire world saying, yeah, we all agreed that those cops were justifying their actions.
Yeah, he came out with that.
This is a New York Times story. Everybody got this update. How do you not talk about that during the debate?
That's a big deal. I mean, because I remember that. The juror recently came out, if I'm not mistaken, saying they wanted the entirety of the grand jury thing out and open. And it looked like the prosecutor was trying to hold it for a bit. Because the last I saw about it, it was being held, meaning like he was trying to hold up the release of that document. And so if they've released it, and it came across as if he basically lied, that is horrendous. I mean, think about that for the moment. You're right.
He ain't basically lied. He lied. The attorney for the juror said that he was he was flustered and frustrated because to the degree that AG Cameron lied, like he just was like, I can't believe this. Like that was because you gotta think about it. They attached 3 felony charges to the dude who shot a wall.
Who missed?
Imagine what they would have done to Breonna Taylor's killer.
Who missed? Think about that. Like
who missed?
The weirdness of that. Like if that's legal, then there's something fundamentally wrong with your justice system. Meaning you have 3 cops that, or not how many ever have, burst into a room at night in America with the Second Amendment and with people screaming to me, stand your ground anytime that a black person gets murdered. Now, the wild part about this is, like you said, the bullets missed. He gets charged. The people who hit her go free. Isn't that bizarre as a criminal justice system? Let's do this, Niko. I'm going to take a break. Wait, let's do this. I'm going to take a break. And we're going to come back and we're going to finish out the show. I've been enjoying this. I've enjoyed all the segments today, but this one in particular, I think, I don't know. You're right. Those things should have been discussed in the debate, and they weren't. You guys are listening to Fault Lines with Thomas and Stranahan. We are with Niko House, political activist and broadcast journalist, founder and CEO of MCSC Network. We will be back in a moment.
Fault Lines. Radio Sputnik. We speak your language. Find us at SputnikNews.com.
What do we want?
News, politics, and culture.
When do we want it?
Wait, we weren't finished. News, politics, and culture without the red and blue spin.
Okay, so now when do you want it?
Daily from noon to 2 p.m. Eastern Time.
Okay, satisfied now?
Never. Tune in to Political Misfits on 105.5 FM in Washington, D.C. and on 102.9 and 104.7 FM in Kansas City, Missouri. Daily for our analytical fix. No surrender.
Fault Lines.
Welcome back to Fault Lines. My name is Jamarl Thomas. I am typically here with Shane Stranahan, but Shane is not feeling all that well today, so definitely send him your good wishes. We are joined by a political activist and broadcast journalist, founder and CEO of MCSC Network, Niko House. We were talking basically about what wasn't included in the Democratic primary, at the Democratic debate, at the debate between the two, the presidential debate. I think the thing that bothered me most, if I'm being honest, is how detached and utterly theatrical that debate was in context of what is happening in the country. It just seems that our government is utterly detached from the real material concerns of the public.
Yeah.
Why? Now, this is a question that you can go any way you want. I have my own ideas about this and people who I blame. I honestly, believe it or not, tend to blame the left. But why do you think that it's become that disconnected?
Blame the left. No, I absolutely blame the left. I'm furious at the left, and I feel like it like festered more so after that debate, because after I'm like, so hold up. He literally looks at y'all straight. I'm not going to pass the Green New Deal. Then he takes a dig at Sanders and says, I'm not doing anything Sanders wants. I don't care if they're the most popular policies in the country. Right? And then they get on this tangent, the USPS, voter suppression. So now y'all care about voter suppression, but you didn't care about it in the primaries when it was proven. You didn't, and you didn't care about it, nor did you deny whenever that attorney said during the DNC fraud lawsuit, no, we could just nominate who we want to. We don't really care who y'all vote for.
We can be in a
Like,
smoke-filled back room and pick a candidate, and you can't do squat about it.
Yep. And you can't do anything about it. Like, I'm listening to them talk, and I'm listening to the leftists. They say, oh man, bro, on Twitter, somebody said, oh wow, Joe Biden said Antifa is an idea, not a group. I think he's really trying to win me over. I said, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Like, are you kidding me? Whoa.
It's like, dude, just give me healthcare.
Like,
I don't.
Yeah.
Like,
don't prosecute the fascist cops.
Yeah.
Don't apologize for the 94 crime bill. Don't promise to repeal the 94 crime bill. Don't promise to ban private prisons. Don't promise to decriminalize drugs. Don't promise to decriminalize marijuana.
Right there.
But
right there.
Antifa is an idea.
That's the thing, Niko. That's the thing. If the left accepts that, if the left, meaning, if you are at the point where you don't care one iota what that candidate wants, and you accept the premise that it is not the candidate's job to get your vote, which is the most natural thing in the world from the standpoint of a representative government. That guy's trying to get my vote. He's trying to win, right? It's voting. You would think that the person will go out there, but instead, cowardice. Cowardice. And cowardice is enough to cow the left.
What could we possibly get from Biden? If anything, you know how I feel about it. We're gonna lose more under Biden because nobody's gonna try to fight him.
Yeah. I mean, but that's my point. If we would have started off the moment that Sanders lost or something like that, instead of having the frame of mind of, okay, well, at this point, I guess you have to go for Biden, but instead stuck with the policy. 88% of us back this, meaning from people in the Democratic Party. It is unconscionable that you don't back this. And if indeed Donald Trump is going to end the world, the apocalypse, I mean, he is, if he wins, going to get the House, Senate, Supreme Court. He's going to win it all. So maybe you're right. But if you're willing to tank it to that man, instead of appropriating policies or organically bring the party together, then the issue is with the party itself. And that should have been the argument. That argument is rational. It makes sense. And yet that is the opposite. It's the opposite of what lefties do.
Yeah. It doesn't make it. It's almost, I don't want to say like lefties are lazy, but I do believe that there is this contingency of the left who thinks they're more intelligent than they actually are. But then when it's time to actually get on behind closed doors and begin to strategize, like outside, like you can do an outside in type of strategy, right? Where like that's what Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and a lot of these great activists did. Martin Luther King didn't like JFK or Nixon. RFK had to literally drag MLK, kicking and screaming like, "Hey, my brother really wants to try to make some change." And MLK was like, I guess we'll slow down with it.
And by the way, that could have been with Nixon too. There are stories about that where Nixon could have been that person to end up talking to Martin Luther King instead of Kennedy. Oh, that stuff is fascinating.
It could have been either one. Why? Because the mandate that those activists got was so large because it was formed outside of political parties that either president, even Lyndon B. Johnson, was forced to acquiesce to that mandate rather than to a party. And then when they saw how successful that was, they said, we can never have this again. So let's say BLM is a Democrat thing. Let's say Antifa is a Democrat thing. Let's say crime is fighting the justice system is a Democrat thing. And then the left fell for it. Hook, line, and sinker. It's crazy. I'm like, it's obvious. Like, bro, when they tell you had some of the most brilliant candidates the Democratic Party has really ever had to run, and y'all say, yeah, I know, I understand that, and I understand the issues that are prominent today, including racial and social justice, equity for all, for possible. But how about this? Can we put the man in, like, nominate the man who literally caused all these problems, and y'all would still vote for him? And the left just said yes.
Left accepts it.
So what do we have?
How bizarre is that?
What do we have now?
Basically, it's not your job to get our vote. It's our job to cater and throw out bodies at you. And you say, well, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. That's not a democracy or representative government. That's something else. And they say, hey, we don't have a choice. They would say, we don't have a choice. They would appropriate the language of the people who are exploiting them. And I think that's the saddest aspect of it all.
And you know what's even more bizarre? I see more quote-unquote leftists more angry at Tulsi Gabbard for fighting for election integrity
Oh yeah.
than they are Joe Biden.
Yeah. Isn't that weird?
Like, I'm like, hold up. Are y'all mad at her for what? Because I was confused. I was off Twitter for a couple of days, and they were like, she quoted a video from Project Veritas. I'm like, okay, but what was it saying? That there's ballot harvesting. I'm like, well, were they lying about the ballot harvesting in the video? They were like, well, no, there seems to be some kind of about. I'm like, well, okay, so what's the problem? I'm confused. Did she accuse Elon of something? No, but Veritas did. I'm like, yeah, but Veritas does what Veritas does. Did the video show ballot harvesting? We're like, well, yeah. I'm like, so did y'all talk about her bill? Well, no, because she was propping up Project Veritas. I'm like, hold up. No. She introduced that bill 2 weeks ago. Y'all know that. It had nothing to do with Project Veritas. She's been fighting for election integrity for years. Y'all have literally had zero to say about any of her election integrity efforts. Because that's one of the reasons. That's why I say this is why Bernie lost. Because if y'all put the onus on him to support the legislation that Tulsi was trying to get passed to make sure the system was fixed by the time we got to this point, then we wouldn't have to deal with this stuff.
And by
but
now,
now,
put it in context. I mean, basically. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Well, I was
no. Go ahead.
Basically, the Democratic Party screamed that a foreign government undermined our election. Tulsi Gabbard said, "Okay, then let's have election transparency," and everybody else said, "Nah." Now, for all of the flat in the talk that has been going on for elections, being there's something on this game out elections, etc. Tulsi Gabbard's bill got to the root and the nub of let's deal with election integrity. Like, if you don't know, and if your public doesn't fully believe that your elections are transparent and safe, then you're going to run into problems with that public disbelieving the integrity of your elections, or for that matter, the legitimacy of a candidate. She was right.
Yeah, and she's been consistent about this on the left and the right. Like, she's called out all the states, all the examples, and she's talked about how complacent both parties have been, and because this particular situation they believe favors the right. But I'm like, that's not the case. Actually, ballot harvesting has hurt the Democrats and Republicans. Y'all are morons. Like, I don't know what else to tell you because y'all didn't care. You literally didn't care. And even in the context of this discussion, Jamarl, they still didn't mention her bill, which is what the whole conversation is really about. That's why she's even included in it, because she had just introduced the bill a couple of weeks ago. And they're like, yeah, Tulsi's going full right. I'm like, y'all are this fetishization of like attacking Tulsi is becoming weird, like a different type of weird. Like, Joe Biden attacked.
Why do you think they do that?
Well,
I mean, because during the primaries, they attacked her as if, I don't know, she like slapped her mom or something. It became like a religious thing when they would attack. I mean, they would be belligerent towards her. And you'd be like, what's your issue? Do you remember Joe Rogan? That crazy woman that was supposed to be a journalist for the New York Times goes on Joe Rogan. And she...
Very wise. Yeah.
Right. And she trashes Tulsi. Now, Joe Rogan asked the most simple question in the world. What do you mean by that? And she had no clue. Because if she was around her other toadies, as she used the term.
That's what everybody else said.
Exactly. So, it's what everybody else talks about. So all of the people who are around her would have just agreed.
What it comes down to? What it comes down to is they don't like Tulsi because she is principled, right? And so, us in the independent journalism community, we get this to a obviously far lesser degree. When we're independent, the left they've developed, or shown a lack of development in their understanding of like the left-right paradigm. And they show that when they attack us as being right-wing or helping Trump, because they don't have any idea what to say or what to do or how to respond. So they don't like Tulsi because she has that same independent mindset. And then once again, it comes down to she exposes their lack of concern for changing the system. And they know that. So whenever that happens, they have to say, well, you must want Trump to win. You're trying to get a job at Fox News. But Joe Biden literally attacks Bernie Sanders, attacks the Green New Deal, makes a mockery of the left on that debate stage. Bernie comes out and defends him. And they're like, oh, Bernie shows such poise.
And that's what
He's so brave.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Leverage. Politics is leverage, and cowardice commands none. And you have this situation where they are so terrified of Trump that Joe Biden can come out and basically say, I'm going to slap AOC. AOC will still vote for him. He could pee in, other people's corn syrup or whatever. they would still vote for him and they would still advocate for him. And I think it's like when you get to that point, that's not an election anymore. I agree with you, man. I totally agree with you on the Tulsi thing. I would say this, though. She's an odd duck in the way that her politics floats between the two.
Absolutely.
And it throws people off. And so when
Also,
people engage me, for
I don't
example.
think Tulsi is not good at reading the room, right?
Right.
She's just not. That's
Right.
like her weakest.
Right.
That's her
Right.
weak. No, it's like it's weird. 'Cause I think it's a Hawaiian thing because like the culture is so different there, and everybody is just so straightforward. And that's how she is. If she feels like something, she's not gonna like, oh well, maybe I shouldn't talk about Project Veritas if I want to convey this point. But her mind is, well, if this helps to get my legislation talked about, then I'm going to talk about it. I don't understand why I wouldn't.
Right.
The video isn't false. And I'm like, I understand, because sometimes people were like, well, why would she use that timing, right? And I'm like, I get it, but at the same time, like, why would we react to that? Is the video showing false evidence? No. Like every now and then, I gotta quote Fox News because they're the ones who broke the damn story.
Right. Yeah.
I don't like it.
What matters more so is it true?
It's the right thing to do.
Than anything else. Project Veritas is sketchy, but if it's true, that's something else.
They are.
I mean, you know, so
I
do agree with you on this point.
Right?
Well, I do agree with you on this point. If I make an argument about something that hurts Biden, I'm being honest. That's not a Trump position. You know what I mean? That's a position of holding a candidate accountable. That's the difference in those things. And it's easy and it's shorthand to say, oh, you're backing Trump because of you don't back Biden. And it's like, that's an insane, short-sighted, and political, to be honest, position to take.
But what people are saying every time they say that is, please don't expose me. Stop exposing me. Stop exposing my leanings.
Yeah.
Stop exposing my lack of principle.
That's it. That's exactly what it is. Stop exposing my lack of principle. I always say Sanders standing beside Joe Biden makes him look bad just by standing there. He doesn't even have to say anything.
Just by standing there.
Just by standing there. Because if this guy is a Democrat, what the hell are you? Meaning if this guy's policies are the ones that people accept and like, what are you? Why are you here? So, Niko, thank you, man. I really appreciate you coming on. We have political activist and broadcast journalist, founder of CEOMCSC Network. Niko, where can people find your stuff?
You can find me on Twitter at Niko, NIKO CSFB. You can also find me on my website, independent.io/MCSE Network.
Absolutely. Thanks, man. I really appreciate it. So let's do this.